Hello, podcast listener. First off, thank you so much for hitting the play button. I really appreciate that. Oh, and it's me. It's Phil Gramlich, the host of the show. These bonus episodes are shows that I released a while back that have been pulled off of some of those listening platforms. So you can't find these on iTunes or Apple Podcasts or some other platforms. So what I wanted to do was re-release them so the newer listeners can find them and listen to them, and so the older listeners can listen again. Because, let's be for real, these shows are awesome. Sorry, I can't help myself. This was originally episode number 22 of the Ear to There Disney podcast. So, enjoy.
From the Ear to There Travel Studio, this is the Ear to There Disney podcast.
The Ear to There podcast, it's time to start the show. Be sure to hold on tight, here we go. Exploring all the different Disney destinations. Ear to There, it's time to start the fun.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Ear to There Disney podcast. I'm your host, Phil Gramlich. I'm also the owner and the founder of Ear to There Travel, which is, of course, a Disney-specialized travel agency. It's my job, along with all the other vacationeers on the Ear to There travel team, to take away all that stress, all that anxiety, and all that time that it takes for you to plan a Disney trip so you can focus on the really, really fun things like having a phenomenal time with your family and friends and enjoying the magic. Find out more about Ear to There travel, meet our vacationeers, listen to this podcast, and get your free, no obligation quote over at eartotheretravel.com. So like I said in the beginning, the intro of the show, this is a re-release of episode number 22. That is where my friend and fellow obsessed Disney fan, Chuck Rodriguez, came on the show, and we talk all about our top 10 Walt Disney World attraction quotes. Now here's the thing, we don't just tell you what the quotes are. We don't just read them or recite them. We do the voices. Yes, we very, very poorly. Actually, very poorly on my part. Sometimes pretty well on Chuck's part. He's pretty good at this. We recite the quotes in our best version of the character voices. It's pretty fun. So I really hope you enjoy this bonus episode of our top 10 Walt Disney World attraction quotes. Here to discuss the best Disney attraction quotes with me is a man who truly needs no introduction. All right, time out. This is current day Phil, not episode 22 Phil. And by the way, I always wanted to do that time out like Zach Morris did on Saved by the Bell. Anyway, you might notice that my intro is a little slow and a little lacking of emotion. That's how I used to roll on the Ear to There Disney podcast. I didn't exactly bring a lot of emotion. Anyway, it gets better on this episode, and this is one of the ones where I kind of started figuring out how to actually podcast. It took a while. Okay, time in, but I'm going to give him one anyway. He's an Orlando local, former cast member, and current annual pass holder. He's the gangster to my tour guide. Chuck Rodriguez, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, as always.
Chuck, thank you for coming back on, and this, I think, as we were talking about, before we started recording, I think the best quotes, the best attraction quotes, I don't know which way you took it. I'm really interested in kind of finding out what, the angle you took on these quotes.
Yes, I was thinking the same thing. I'll be honest, when you first told me, I think before you even finished the sentence in the text a couple weeks ago, I was like, wow, this could be like the most fun topic yet. But then as we got closer and I started trying to think through all the attractions and actually come up with stuff, I couldn't think of anything and I was getting bummed out. And then I took the angle of, okay, what are the actual quotes that I and my fellow Disney World, people that I go with and over the years, whether it's family, friends, coworkers, and we have actually used that line, or even quotes that I've used myself amongst people that I know probably never been to Disney World as many times as me, so they have no idea what I'm referring to. But then, of course, I know what it is, so I laugh.
And
that's all that matters.
It's true. I think this podcast especially is for like the true Disney fan. I hope people who haven't been to the parks, who haven't been there in a while, can still appreciate it. Because I was thinking about it. I'm like, man, I really think this can be fun. But I also think if you don't get the quotes, you're going to be really bored. So I hope people get it. I hope it's fun. So yeah, so let's just get into it. Oh, and here's a rule that we didn't talk about earlier this week, but I made today. So
okay.
What I originally planned to do was play the little clips of the quotes after we kind of explained them a little bit. But I don't think I'm going to do that. Not because it takes me time, but because I think it'll be more fun if we kind of act the quote out from the attraction.
Yes.
So the rule is that I did not impose until now is that you have to kind of do the quote in the form as it is in the attraction. So we're not going to flip a coin or anything. I think it's best because you are the performer of the two of us. And obviously the Juilliard graduate, you are up first.
I wish. Okay. So then my first one is going to be one that friends and I have definitely quoted many times over the years since probably I was in college program. It's at Disney's Hollywood Studios, and it's from Muppet Vision 3D, and it is from the scene when Sam the Eagle tells Kermit that the finale that he has planned...
Oh, you stole my first one! This is my first one on my list.
I honestly did not think that you were going to have this one.
I was so excited. All right.
I didn't think, and it's my first one too.
It's fine. So we're going to have to share this one, but go ahead.
All right, then you're going to have to say, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and say the quote in the best way that I think I can. So this will be Sam the Eagle, then Kermit says something, responds to him, and then Sam the Eagle responds again.
Okay.
And so how it goes is, it's a glorious 3-hour finale. You got a minute and a half.
That's very well done. That was good. You know what? To be honest, that's better than I could have done. Way better.
All right, thank you. And the funny thing is, completely unrelated, because I think when I heard this story, it might have been a couple weeks ago, so it might have been before you even suggested doing this. I actually do have a friend who works at Disney IT with other IT, obviously coworkers, and he said that there was some sort of a conference call about something that they all had to learn, and a lot of people were already in the conference call, kind of waiting and listening, and somebody did actually say this, but they were kind of dead serious, but they were still referring to it anyway, and only he and a handful of people who are all Disney cast members who've been working with Disney for many, many years, only a handful got the reference.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
You would think that everyone who's ever been to Hollywood Studios would know that line. I think that that was the first one that came to me when I sat down and started saying to myself, all right, think of the lines that make you laugh, the lines in any, attraction that stick out in your head. And the other one, Sam the Eagle has another killer one from that attraction too. When he says, I don't know the quote because I didn't write it down, but it's something like, it's a tribute to all nations, especially America.
But mostly America. Yeah.
It's great.
Yes, that's a good one too.
It's great. The Muppet, that's what makes the Muppets so much fun, is it's that I love the one-liners and like how fast it is.
Yeah, it's just quick humor.
It's just full of puns and one-liners, and it's great. So
Agreed.
So you stole my first, that was my first one, and now we're all out of order.
I don't feel guilty at all, but now I am dying to know your angle and what your second one is.
Well, now I think our angles are the same. So my first was Muppets. So, and my second one, so we are actually staying in the same park, not going all that far.
Okay.
And I'm going over to the Rock and Roller Coaster, starring Aerosmith, which I found out recently from you when we were on the podcast. You were not a big Aerosmith fan, and that's a bummer. But,
correct.
So, all right, so there's a lot of no dialogue during the attraction. You have these songs in your ear. You have a light up signs as you're going through LA, which is very cool.
Well, you do hear the kind. I guess it's like is it like a radio DJ? I guess kind of?
That's true. Yeah, before you
a little bit
get going, he says like the freeways are backed up, and you hear Steven Tyler say 3, 2, 1 in your ear. It's very cool. He may drop an "Are you ready to rock" in there or something. I don't know. So my favorite's the pre-show, and Aerosmith is you get into the pre-show and Aerosmith's kind of milling around in the studio, and you're watching them kind of stand around, and it looks like they had just recorded a session or something. So the manager comes into the room and says, "Oh, you guys are going to be late for the concert." So they're all starting to leave, and Steven Tyler says, I forget the way, this isn't the line, but he does. He's like, "Wait a minute, we can't leave all these people like this." And she's like, I love that part. And she's like, "You can't?" And he's like, "No." But that's not my line. My line is, after he says he wants to bring all the fans with them to the show, to the concert. She says she'll make it happen. And the manager gets on the phone and this is my best impression. I forget the actress's name, so I'm not going to be able to do it. I'm not going to be able to say it. So here's what she says. She says, "Hi, Sal. It's me. I'm going to need a bigger car. Make it a stretch. In fact, make it a super stretch." And that's I'm bowing by myself in my room right now. That is my best acting performance for that line. But I love it how she does and I remember when I think I worked there when it was cast previews, and the cast members, the cast members would do that line. It would say it like verbatim to make it a super stretch because it was, the new attraction. It was so cool. And so that line and Joe Perry saying, "Chris, can you grab my black Les Paul?" They're my favorite 2 lines from that pre-show. So that is not as good as Muppets, but that's my first.
No, that is a good one. And to be honest, that one did occur to me for about a second when I was making my list, because it's I had I was there during the previews, and so Rock and Roller Coaster, whether I like Aerosmith or not, it is a big part of my personal history with Walt Disney World. So, and that pre-show, that entire pre-show, we definitely most of us have memorized it by heart.
Yeah.
And that is one of the lines in it that we probably remember the best. Yes. Yeah. So that was a very good choice.
Thank you, Chuck. I appreciate that.
I like that.
I'm still made it. You stole my first one, so you're up next. What do you got?
Now I'm trying to be nice to make up for it.
Yeah, go to your last one. Don't steal any more of mine. No,
I bet you
give me your
do
best
not
shot.
have my second one.
All right, go.
My second one. Okay, so my second one, it's a famous quote, but it happens to be used in a Disney attraction. It is American Adventure. It is Mark Twain. So it is an actual Mark Twain quote that the Mark Twain audio animatronic responds to something that the Ben Franklin audio animatronic says. And I just think it's a great quote that I use personally, and I'm sure you know me well enough to know that this would apply to me. So it's the one where he says, "I was born modest. Fortunately, it wore off."
That's a good one.
So that's the one. Yes, yeah, I like that one.
There's that attraction is really full of the great, like really, really cool quotes.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually good American history. You could watch that show and probably skip several classes of social studies.
All you kids, stay in school.
Stay in school. Be cool. Stay in school.
Don't listen to Chuck. No, it's such a great attraction. It's such a cool. And that's one I get bummed out about too, because I think people skip that attraction a lot.
Yeah, it is time consuming. I mean, you do have to. It's 32 minutes.
It is, and but it's. I think I've read, and correct me if I'm wrong, that it has the most audio animatronic figures of any Disney attraction. I think that doesn't count things like Small World, where I think they're not technically audio animatronic figures.
Oh, right.
So yeah, it's full of there's 10 sets, massive, huge, crazy sets that kind of roll through that stage. And I think we talked about this before, how they do that. I forget the name. It has a fun name. The machine that runs those sets up on the main stage, because all those sets are stored, off stage. There's not, and they're massive. They're full size stage sets that they kind of cycle through this big machine. Such an impressive, cool show, and it's a great line from it. as well. So
thanks.
All right. So my next one, I hope you don't have it, but if you do, tough. So it's we're going over to back to Magic Kingdom and into Liberty Square.
Okay.
Haunted Mansion, of course.
Okay.
And it is really hard to pick one line, like one quote.
Yeah, I actually gave up. I gave up on the Haunted Mansion because of that reason.
Yeah, so I have one that always kind of sticks out in my head for this one. Because there's great ones, right? There's from the Ghost Host, the narrator, who's just...
Right, pretty much the entire pre-show is quoted all the time.
Yeah, constantly. And he has, some of the greatest lines in all of the Disney parks, but... Like, when hinges creak in doorless chambers. I love that one. That's not my line, though. That's always going to be great. But my one is, okay, here we go. I have to get ready for this one again. Do not pull down on the safety bar, please. I will lower it for you. That was actually pretty good, I have to say.
That was not bad. That was not bad at all.
So I love that one. I love the, it's always like perfectly timed where, you sit down in a dune buggy and you're going towards... the beginning of the attraction, and there's a cast member there that's kind of disinterested and kind of waving their hand up to tell you to move your hands off the bar. And then as the ghost host says that, the bar comes back. And, other attractions have that. The Omni-Mover attractions all have the bar that comes back by itself. But it's so cool that they, Disney Imagineers added that line to that attraction. It just makes it...
Yes.
It just makes it a little, extra special that's there. And yeah, that's the Ghost Host is one of the coolest characters that you never see in all of Walt Disney World. So I love that.
Good one. Like I said, the Haunted Mansion is filled with so many that I actually just passed it over. I'm like, I'm not going to be able to choose one. So I'm like, I won't even bother with the Haunted Mansion. But that's a good one.
Yeah. And again, like there's so many, you're right. There's so many you could choose from. And when we were there with my kids, our son Jack had never ridden it before. Well, he had been on it when he was a baby, and he was 3.5 this time we took him. And he's our kind of nervous Nelly of the group. And we were telling him, it's fine. Don't worry about it. It's fine. You're going to love it. You're going to love it. It's good. Like horrible parents that we are. And we took him on, and we got stuck right in the part, like right in the attic where there's the
bride.
Oh, and it's creepy, and she's, oh my God. So he'll probably never get over that in his entire life. I feel bad for him. But yeah, anyway, that's a great attraction, great line. So I think you're up with your next one.
Okay. In that case, I'm gonna stay in the Magic Kingdom, and I'm going to choose a quote that the reason I chose this quote because it's one of the best and sometimes overlooked example of how Disney is so great at the details, yes, as we know, and they're also so great at their own references to refer to their own history and their own past. So this one is from the People Mover. Now, I'll be honest,
I know where you're going.
You know which one. Yeah. I forget if the current version of the People Mover does it or not, even though I go on it all the time. I don't even remember at this moment. But the previous version, when it got changed just like a couple years ago, it's where you hear like a PA system, and it's a woman's voice going, "Paging Mr. Morrow, Mr. Tom Morrow.
Well
Please
done.
Contact Mr. Johnson in the control tower to confirm your flight to the moon." Something like that.
That's really, really well done, I have to say.
And as we know, that it's referring to, obviously Tom Morrow is just tomorrow. And Mr. Johnson was the animatronic, I guess, like the mission control director or whatever that would discuss things with you in the pre-show of Flight to the Moon, which later became Mission to Mars.
Very cool. And I'm sorry I cut you off in the middle. I thought you were going to stop it for Tom Morrow. I apologize.
Oh, that's okay.
Because I started reacting because it was so well done, and then you kept going.
Oh,
so sorry.
I didn't mean. I'm going to go thorough, so it's the whole line.
I promise I didn't mean to cut you off, but yeah, I now that you say it, I think I know they took it out a few years ago, like you said. I don't remember hearing it in our last couple trips. I don't know if it's still there or not, but that's it's such a classic one. I love that. And who doesn't love the People Mover? That could have been on our previous WDW ways to keep cool in Walt Disney World. That's nice. That's a really good way.
I did consider that one, actually.
Yeah, you sit on that one, you ride through the air conditioning, through the pitch black, but yeah, good call, Chuck. I love that one.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm going over to Epcot for my next one.
Okay.
We're going to, you don't have to walk very far into Epcot at all, because I'm going right to Spaceship Earth. Now, here's where I'm going to break it down a little bit for you, okay? Judi Dench, her version of the Spaceship Earth narration is fine, and it's good. And if you've never done it before and you get on that attraction now, you'll love it just like you would have, 20 years ago. But I think you miss out on a little bit without, and I know he wasn't the original narrator, but Jeremy Irons' narration of that attraction was one of my favorite Disney things of all time. And his first line that he did in his narration, and again, this is cheating because this isn't there anymore, but his first line was my all-time favorite for the entire attraction. And I'm going to do, get ready, the worst Jeremy Irons impression.
And just in general, the worst British accent ever, probably.
And you know what? This is my podcast. It's my show. And if you don't like it, you don't have to. No, I'm kidding. So here I go. You ready, Chuck?
Go ahead.
Everybody get ready for this. All right. This is going to be bad. Like a grand and miraculous spaceship, our planet had sailed through the universe of time. And for a brief moment, we have been among its many passengers. That was that was god-awful. Holy cow. That was worse than I practiced.
If you did not say who you were trying to imitate, no one on earth would have ever have chosen the actor, where the actor was from, nothing.
Okay, so
people might have just said, that's Judi Dench. I have no idea.
Okay, so this is the one part where I think I'm going to have to put the clip in because the actual clip is so good. So
yes, and you're right.
I'm going to edit in and put the clip in somewhere.
Yeah, you should.
Like a grand and miraculous spaceship, our planet has sailed through the universe of time. And for a brief moment, we have been among its many passengers.
Because there was something yes, Jeremy Irons, just in general, the way he speaks, like when obviously the voice of Scar was absolutely amazing. And there's just something in the way he speaks. So just doing a narration like that about just this inspirational look on ourselves and the planet Earth and our history of communications, it's too much. You used to get really you lose yourself in just listening to the entire narration. And of course now it's weird because not only is it Judi Dench, but you can choose 6 different languages.
Yeah, it's just a lot different.
It's the same, it's the same spiel, pretty much the same narration, but because I have tried it in each language, just kind of for fun, and
the life of an annual pass holder.
Yes, because I'm bored, so I'm like, I gotta find something new to do on this ride today. So, in fact, my sister-in-law and I did that yesterday. So she was in the front row, I was in the back row. I chose Spanish, and she chose French. So we did that just yesterday.
Nice, and she speaks French, or she doesn't speak French? I forget.
Yeah, her descendants are French, so she does know French. But so yeah, Jeremy Irons. That's a great quote. I like. And
that. It was a good attempt by me. I know my accents. I can't do any accent at all. So I figured I was going to go for it, and as bad as it was, that's as bad as it was going to be.
E for effort. That's all that matters.
Yeah. Hey, what are you going to do? All right, you're up, Chuck, for your next one.
Okay. I'm going to go back to Tomorrowland, the Magic Kingdom. And actually, if I remember correctly, it might even be in the building where you hear where the People Mover passes by the Carousel of Progress when you actually hear my previous quote. So it's in the Carousel of Progress, and it is from Cousin Orville. So the character of Cousin Orville, who sits in the bathtub with what he calls air cooling. So where he rigged, it's hot, talking about beat the heat at Walt Disney World, but he actually put a regular electric fan. So it must have been the scene. It must be the 1920 scene. So when they got electricity, and he put a big ice cube in order to cool himself down. Right. And so So I always forget the name of the actual the father who actually talks to us the whole time. Do you remember?
I forget his name.
Yeah, I forget too. So it's the father.
It's the voice of the guy from A Christmas Story, right? The narrator from Christmas Story.
Right.
But I don't remember his name.
Rex Allen. But
sure. Yeah. Anyway,
yeah,
I'm sorry. I thought they just called him Father. Does he have a name?
I don't. He might not. He might not actually. So anyway, when the father is explaining, Cousin Orville is their perennial house guest, and he doesn't get a job, and he doesn't leave, and they're showing Cousin Orville in the bathtub, in the bathroom, kind of off stage, and then you hear Cousin Orville go, "No privacy at all around this place."
Dude, another really hit it out of the park with that one.
I don't know who did his voice, but it sounds like Jimmy Stewart.
It's Mel Blanc or Mel Blanc, however you say it.
Oh, that makes sense. If it's Mel Blanc, okay, because he could do a million voices.
Yeah, isn't that cool that he did that voice?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah, dude, you killed that. That was awesome.
And I have found myself quoting that now and then, where like if someone's bugging you or something, and you say "no privacy at all around this place."
It's like
I live alone now, so I'm only saying it to myself now. But.
I was gonna say it's like when you come visit us when we're staying in one of the resorts, and the kids, you try to go to the bathroom, and the kids are trying to get in the entire time.
See, I bet you're gonna say it next time tomorrow morning when the kids are awake. I bet you're gonna say it
tomorrow morning. You mean overnight when I'm trying to sleep and it's 3 a.m. and they're trying to climb under my pillow tonight. No, that's a great one. I love that line. And that's such a cool character too. He I forget, he was like an uncle and then a cousin and then an uncle. They changed the stories throughout the years.
They've changed the lines over the time, over the years.
Yeah, great Chuck, great choice. And that's the best impression so far. Second, I mean, my Jeremy Irons was definitely second, but that one was very good. All right. So I'm going again, not very far. This passes right in front of the Magic Kingdom where we were just talking about, and it is the iconic Walt Disney World monorail, which I know. Here's the thing.
Are you about to get ethnic on me with this quote?
Yes. So I kind of we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this. All right. I want to ask you to help me out. I'm going to say the first part in my very best, like Jack Wagner wannabe voice, and then you're going to say the Spanish part, if that's okay.
All right.
So I know I have a lot of listeners of Latin background, and I don't want anyone getting mad at me for completely butchering the language. But so is it cheating to say this is an attraction? It's because it's technically a transportation.
No, people consider it an attraction.
All right,
it's beloved, and it is technically an attraction at Disneyland. So
yeah, I mean that's true. And this is my podcast, so I make the rules. So
exactly.
I sound like a little kid. If you don't like it, I'm taking my ball. I'm going home. All right, so we all know the famous quote. So I'm going to say the first part, and then you have to say the second part, okay? So it's, please stand clear of the doors.
Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.
And you killed it way better than I did again. Way better than I could have done. All right, so we're not going to do one of these podcasts again because I get destroyed. But come on, man. That's the coolest. That for me is Walt Disney World, that line. It's so cool. It's on T-shirts. I mean, they have toys that say it. I remember that I had that as, this is how nerdy I am, was the text message sounds for I had my Razor phone. So whenever I got a Razor text message, that came up. And then I also had that for a while on my old PC. It was like my AIM instant message sound every time I got it.
Yes.
And that got old fast because it was a long thing to hear every time you got a message. But that quote, and last trip we weren't staying on a monorail line resort, so we hadn't been on the monorail the entire trip. And it was our last day. We were at Magic Kingdom, and I said to my wife, we have to ride the monorail. We just have to, there's no reason for us to, but we have to, because I don't like to go on take a trip to Walt Disney World, not get on the monorail. So yeah, so that was my actual last one, but I have a couple honorable mentions because my first one was so ruthlessly stolen by you. So you have
who knows? Maybe with the next, maybe you have one that I had on my list. I still have several on my list.
All right, so I have a couple honorable mentions. So why don't you we'll just keep going. Give me your next one.
Okay. Okay, so this next one, I'm kind of surprised you haven't mentioned it. It is because you did say you have an extinct one.
Okay.
If I remember correctly. So this one is an extinct, and it is fresh in my mind because as of, the day that we're recording this, last night I did go to Epcot with FastPass to be able to ride Frozen Ever After, which was great.
Good.
It was actually exceeded my expectations.
Now, did you watch the video before you did it, or you just went in cold?
I did. I'm not.
Okay.
I'm all about spoilers. I always spoil myself.
Okay.
Always.
Now, I've only seen the video. Was it as good? It looked fantastic on the video to me.
Yes, it is as good as the video. Yes.
Oh, good. I'm excited.
Yes.
I mean,
they did a great job.
Take that, Maelstrom people.
Well, and then
I'm kidding.
My quote.
People are so mad at me for that. Okay, go ahead. Your quote's from Maelstrom.
I am not one of those people who's upset that Frozen has replaced Maelstrom. I'm like, that's fine. It's great. Don't worry about it. I'm good. But Maelstrom was a very big, because it was just there, during the entire time that I was a cast member, kind of became an adult and learned about the world. So it was a big part of my life. And the narration as your boat starts going up the uphill, I cannot tell you how many times my friends and coworkers and roommates and I have quoted that over the years. And so here it goes. With my best Norwegian accent. You are not the first to pass this way, nor shall you be the last. Those who seek the spirit of Norway face peril and adventure more often. You find beauty and charm. That's not very good Norwegian accent.
That was like Norwegian accent if Count Dracula was from Norway.
Yes.
I want to suck your blood. That's kind of what it sounded like. No, that was good. I was only giving you a hard time, but yeah, I didn't. That wasn't on my list. My actual the one I was talking about that was my extinct one was the. Let me see where did it go now? Oh, the Spaceship Earth, because it was Jeremy Irons.
Okay.
He's no longer there, but that's a really good one, and I had a feeling you were going to go with that one because it is a very, very famous, very like iconic line from any attraction. And what I saw, again, I haven't been there since Frozen Ever After opened, but I saw that the waterfall is still there, but it's just sealed off now.
Yeah, it's just rocks.
So, but the moment...
Well, the waterfall's there, but the hole is...
The hole where you would
rocks,
see the boats look like they were coming outside.
Yes.
So, but the attraction, from what I can tell, still has that backwards part.
Yeah, you have to still shift, but you don't see outside.
Right.
It's dark. Yeah.
It's like the big let it go.
It would not have made sense in the ride at all to be able to see out that hole.
Right.
It would not have made sense.
It looks like that's like the whole let it go part of the attraction, which looks really, really well done. I can't wait to try it out.
It is very well done. Very well done.
But yeah, that's a great pick, Chuck.
Thank you.
And listen, I give Maelstrom a hard time only because, again, I've said this before and I've written in my blog, and nobody ran when World Showcase opened to do Maelstrom right away. And it was a fine attraction, and it was, it wasn't this horrible. It wasn't, but it needed to be replaced. Things in Walt Disney World have to be replaced when new technologies, new things come out. I get it that a lot of the things that are classics are still there, but what are you going to replace? Peter Pan's Flight or Maelstrom? Like Maelstrom had an oil rig as the finale. I'm not trying to be mean.
It was outdated. I'm sure the Norwegians probably were not even proud of it anymore. I doubt.
And there's always YouTube. You want to ride Maelstrom tonight? Go on YouTube.
Exactly. It's not like the old days where you had to actually just kind of close your eyes and remember your last trip to Walt Disney World. Now you can just relive it on YouTube as much as you want.
Amazingly too, like there's still rides like Horizons you can find on YouTube. There's stuff that you can get, even like the Mickey Mouse. Yeah, Mickey Mouse review. If you were too young to see that at Magic Kingdom, that was in Tokyo forever, and you can see a video. Yeah, you can see a video on that. You can see everything. All right, so great call. I love that one. So I have a few honorable mentions that. Okay. So I want to give a couple, and then we'll try to end it on a good one. But one of my honorable mentions was, of course, I don't have a lot of notes on this one, but I don't really need it. From Pirates of the Caribbean at the Magic Kingdom, and it's from the auctioneer scene in the attraction, and I can't really do the voice, but I want to try. Excuse me, I want to clear my throat. "We wants the redhead. We wants the redhead." That was my best.
That's not bad. You could totally be a pirate.
I've always wanted to be a pirate. I mean, that'd be a cool life. You know, it's always on a boat. You can go fishing whenever you want. You got rum. It's pretty awesome. But it's for me. It's a great line. It's famous. I don't think it's in the Pirates of the Caribbean movie, but the redhead character is for me.
Yeah, just maybe not the line.
That one, and I want to ask you, Chuck, because the character's name is Carlos, who is being dunked in the well.
Yes.
And his wife has a great line that she yells down at him. Can I get you to do that for me real quick?
Don't be cheeking.
Thank you. I knew you would be game. But I love both of those lines. They're from like the same like scene in Pirates, and I mean, you can't beat Pirates. It's so great, and those two lines are always etched into my brain when I go on that ride. So
those are good.
So what do you got? Do you have a couple more? Do you have one more? I have one or two more that I can go with.
Yeah, I have three, so you could do your two, and I'll two of mine are kind of together, just like what you did with Pirates of the Caribbean. All right, so I'll do that next, and then I have one after that.
Cool, go ahead.
Okay, so my together one, they're both from Dinosaur, nay Countdown to Extinction at Animal Kingdom.
Right.
And the reason that I like these two lines, they're from the pre-show. When you got Claire Huxtable and the guy that used to be on that show, Veronica's Closet.
I mean, now, this is probably the only podcast in history that Veronica's Closet has ever been mentioned on. Not only that,
there's got to be Kirstie Alley fans out there who don't spend the entire podcast talking about Cheers only. There has to be.
the Kirstie Alley podcast. Is there a Veronica's Closet podcast? We got to find that out.
You never know.
Or a Claire Huxtable fan podcast.
I'm sure there is that, actually.
All right, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. But the reason that I like these two lines ever since the first time I ever saw the pre-show, which would have been the day that Animal Kingdom opened in 1998, I have found over the years using these lines at work a lot, especially when I have to train employees, and not necessarily at Disney. So there are times, like in my last couple jobs, where obviously there are people who I know they live in Orlando, but they go to the theme parks probably once every 4 years. So they definitely do not know what I'm referring to at all, but I'm just laughing at myself because I know exactly what I'm referring to. And it's while I'm training them or showing them how to do something, or answering their questions about some new program that we're using at work or something. And so the first one is, how? That's proprietary. But... And so that's how I start my line when, like, if they ask me something about the company, I say, how? That's proprietary. But, and then I just give them something.
And they have no idea.
And then the other one that goes with that one, which I'm definitely not the only one who uses this, because I definitely have heard other Disney fans or bloggers and stuff mention this before. And I think I might have even seen somebody with a T-shirt that they might have made on their own that references to this. But it's the part where, so in the pre-show, so Dr. Marsh is showing Dr. Seeker. Well, she's kind of proving that Dr. Seeker cannot override the system to actually make our tour go towards the end of, when the meteor is about to hit, that it has to stay in the safe period. And he presses the button, and you just hear, access denied, access denied, access denied. And so we have actually said that at work several times, and I'm pretty sure I've seen people who have T-shirts made up with the access denied thing.
Nice. Dr. Seeker with his access denied. I kind of like when he uses when he comes on and he has like the sock puppet dinosaur.
Hello there. Yeah.
All right, it's a good one. I haven't, to be honest with you, that wasn't one of the first ones that popped into my head when I started thinking about it. So, all right, so did we say you have one more left and I have two?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'll do a quick one. This is one of my honorable mentions, and it's over at Epcot. It's Soarin', and unfortunately, it's not going to be a part of the Soarin' pre-show anymore, which bums me out. But it's Putty himself from Seinfeld, or as he's known in the real world, Patrick Warburton.
Patrick.
He says, I can't do the Putty voice, but I'll try. The whole thing's great when he talks about, like, you have to put all your loose articles in the net behind or underneath your seat. And that includes, hats, glasses, and these little babies. And he points to the kids' mouse ears. I thought that was great. Or the guy's mouse ears, Mickey Mouse ears. But mine, I don't know why this is always my favorite line, because it's right before the attraction starts, when you're sitting down, you're all excited. And he says, "Soar in a tower, we're ready for takeoff." I love that line. And that's another really bad. But I love Patrick Warburton. I love him as Kronk, and he's such a great character actor. I love his voice. He could read a phone book to me, and I would think it's hilarious.
Right.
So I love what he does, the Stormford Tower thing, and I'm really bummed out that that's going to be gone now. And I'm excited. I haven't seen the new Soarin'. I've seen the video online, which looks great. It looks like the score, the musical score, is very reminiscent of the original film, which I'm really excited about, because I think that's one of the best parts of the whole attraction. But I'm bummed we're losing flight attendant Patrick. I thought he was great. So, all right, Chuck, let's go. What do you got for your final?
My final is extremely specific and personal to me, and you and your wife will appreciate this. You know me well enough to know that I can be how can we say nicely, a little cold. Can I be a little bit cold, maybe?
I would never call you cold. I would call
no, you never call me cold, but
I would call you honest. Let's say honest.
Honest, okay. So I don't really get gripped into the emotional. I'm very pragmatic. So especially in work situations, especially around employees and customers who are not up to my intellectual standards. Let's go ahead and say that. So
we're going to edit this out later.
So if people are really upset, something has happened and they're really upset, I always think of this line from A Bug's Life at Animal Kingdom, where it's the part where after the Terminator comes out.
Sure.
And obviously you get sprayed with water, yada, yada. And then he goes off screen, and Flick, of course, is looking at the audience being like, "Oh, it's such a mess, blah, blah, blah." And he goes, and then he says, "Oh my, well, best to move along. All right." So he's really upset because he sees that the audience is all upset. Everybody's wet. Everybody's freaked out. But he just says, "Oh my, best to move along. All right." And then just goes on to the next topic. And I have definitely caught myself thinking that before in certain situations where I do not understand why the other people in the room are very upset about something. I just want to get past it and just go to the next thing. So that's why I chose that one.
Such a compassionate individual you are. All right, so I don't have a comment on that, so we're going to go on to my next one, my last one. No, you are not cold. I would say sometimes not as compassionate as we would hope. Maybe. The thing I would use. All right, so my last one is over to Magic Kingdom once again and again, this was an honorable mention, but it's the world famous Jungle Cruise, and of course and if you look to your left, folks, you will see something very rare: the backside of water. I love that line. It's a great little part of the attraction. It's never really different, even though some of the Jungle Cruise skippers will put their own little spin on it and say it a little differently, but it usually goes kind of like that. And it's just a fun line, and it's neat, and it's iconic, and it's cool. And
it has become a huge part of theme park lore by this point.
Yeah, it is, and I've seen those shirts, and people have made them themselves. And I don't know if Disney has put that T-shirt out, but they should if they haven't.
They should.
Yeah, it is. It's just it's one of the most famous lines in all of in any theme park anywhere, and it's fun. And we had a great skipper one time who said, and I loved him for this. He said, if you look to your left, folks, you'll see something very rare. It's the backside of water. And then he skipped a beat and he said, which is one of the only things in Walt Disney World that's not frozen. And I was like, that is really well done.
That's good.
He killed it with that. I love that I love that Jungle Cruise skippers have that freedom to make those they can kind of make little jokes on their own, and they don't.
Yeah, they kind of can. Speaking of that, I've only had one skipper do it over the many, 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 many times that I've been on the Jungle Cruise, and it is at the part where they usually say the backside of water. And I had a Jungle Cruise skipper shine his flashlight on it and start singing the Fantasmic song.
That's
and
cool.
Call it Fantasmic. Yes.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yes, and only once at some point in the last 6 years since I became an annual pass holder.
That's really cool. I love that they can do that stuff. That's actually probably a move he was not allowed to do, but it's cool that they did. I remember I read a really cool story about the movie ride, and before the Great Movie Ride at Hollywood Studios, before they didn't really change the spiel up too much, but they changed it. I don't know, 7 years ago or so, 8 years ago maybe. They changed it up a little bit, but I read that it was due to a lot of cast members. Well, they had some changes they wanted to put anyway, but a lot of cast members were really kind of freewheeling that one on their own. And there's some jokes in that attraction, and they were making their own little jokes here and there, and the Disney brass didn't like it so much, so they kind of put an end to that pretty quickly. But it's really cool that Jungle Cruise, they can still do that. I don't know if there's any other real attractions that they can kind of wing it and make jokes and
it
is iconic. And I like that originally it was like a much more serious, like, you're on a real,
like you're actually seeing animals in the jungle.
Yeah, and then I know it was years before when it changed. I think it was in the 60s when they actually started adding the jokes,
making
and the
it
puns.
funny.
Yeah, but so that will do it. I think that's the last one that we had for this list.
Yes.
So Chuck, thanks again for coming back on, and it's always fun to do these with you, even though you are cold, cynical, mean, and everything else. But you're never like that to me or my family or anyone I've seen. So thank you again, and I'm really looking forward to the next time we get to do this.
Me too.
And that is going to do it for this bonus episode of the Ear to There Disney podcast. Thank you once again for listening. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you to Chuck for being on, even though Chuck doesn't know he was on this week. If you see him on Facebook or if you see him out at Whole Foods or wherever he shops, let him know. But seriously, thank you. Seriously, folks, thank you so much for listening. These episodes were great. They are kind of early, but I really enjoy listening back to them now. Especially, I noticed that one of the quotes mentioned was, "We once the redhead from Pirates." Of course, that one is gone. Man, that might have been one of the first extinct Disney things we ever did on the show, where we talked about it back then, and it was there, and now, anyway, it's gone. But just remember, there will be a new episode of the Ear to There Disney podcast next week, as well as a new episode of the Walt Disney World Word of the Week. And maybe even another bonus episode next week. We'll see how much time I have to edit. So until next time, thank you again so much for listening. Have yourself an awesome week. Bye-bye.
Ear to there.